Hi again, this is Andy, K4GKP, and welcome back to the Ham Whisperer and Lesson 11 in the General Class Operator Element 3 exam course. In this lesson, we go over the G2F questions. The G2F questions cover CW operating procedures and procedural signals, Q signals and common abbreviations, and full break-in. And if you haven't tried Morse code or CW yet, I really recommend you give it a shot. There's no requirement anymore for any of the amateur radio licenses to know it like there used to be. But knowing Morse code really expands what you can do with amateur radio and gives you a lot of opportunities. It's really not that hard to learn. So if you get an opportunity, I really recommend you give it a shot. But for the purpose of the general class exam, you're going to have to know a little bit about Morse code. All right, which of the following describes full break-in telegraphy, or QSK? Well, the answer on the exam is incoming signals are received between transmitted code character elements. And this is primarily a radio circuit function. So radios without it will not turn off the receiver until you are done transmitting your code. In some radios, that's a manual function. So there's a transmit switch and a receive switch. QSK allows stations to get your attention while you are sending code. So, for instance, if there's an emergency communication that's trying to break into your conversation, if you're just jamming away on the key and you have to actually stop and turn to a receive switch, you're not going to hear them try to break in. So QSK allows them to break into your conversation in between the dits and das of Morse code. What should you do if a CW station sends QRS when using Morse code? Well, what you need to do is send slower. And if you remember, the S in QRS might stand for slower. That'll help out. And if you've ever used Morse code like I have, you use this one a lot. If the station you're copying starts to speed up beyond your ability to copy, you just send QRS PLS, or send slower please, and the sender will slow down because it's just polite to do so. It's also important to remember to send the QRS at the speed you are able to copy it at. And this gives the sender something to gauge how fast he should be sending you Morse code at. So remember, QRS means send slower. What does it mean when a CW operator sends KN at the end of a transmission? Well, KN indicates that CW operator is listening for a specific station or stations to answer. So this is one of those ones you're just going to have to memorize. But KN, they're looking for somebody specific, or a known, KN, KNOWN, known station. What does it mean when a CW operator sends CL at the end of a transmission? Well, it means they're closing station. And this is an easy one on the exam because CL and closing kind of makes sense. So CL means closing station. What is the best speed to use answering a CQ in Morse code? Well, the best speed is the speed at which the CQ is sent. And so code is sent at the speed of the slowest operator, and it's just polite convention that you do that. And sending is generally a lot easier than copying. So when you're sending Morse code, don't let your eyes get bigger than your stomach and send CQ at a speed faster than you can copy Morse code at. This does not mean that if a station sends a CQ at 20 words per minute, that you have to answer them at 20 words per minute. It just means you need to reply at a speed you can handle and the other station will adjust. So always reply to CQ at no faster than the speed at which the CQ was sent. What does the term zero beat mean in CW operation? Well, this one might trip you up a little bit with the possible answers. Zero beat means matching the frequency of the transmitting station. So it's a little bit tricky with the possible answers. Zero beat does not mean matching the speed, which, if you think about it, actually makes more sense. It's not the speed, it's the frequency. So zero beat is matching the frequency of the transmitting station. When sending CW, what does a C mean when added to the RST report? Well, the C means chirpy or unstable signal. And if you ever receive a signal report with a C in it, that's not very good. You need to really check your equipment to make sure you're transmitting all right. But C stands for chirpy or unstable signal when part of an RST report. What prosign is sent using CW to indicate the end of a formal message? Well, the answer is AR, and it's sent with the A and the R run together, so it'd be dit dot dit dot dit. This is the equivalent, or the Morse code equivalent, of saying over. And there's a trick answer to this one of the possible answers. There's the prosign SK, which is sent when the entire conversation is over, which is the equivalent of saying out. So don't get them confused. And if you think SK means silent key, it means you're done with the whole conversation. The question is not phrased well, so just remember AR is the prosign sent using CW to indicate the end of a formal message. What does the Q signal QSL mean when operating CW? Well, QSL means I acknowledge receipt. And also, in general ham convention, it also implies that you would like a QSL card so that you can acknowledge the interaction. But you want to keep it simple. QSL is just acknowledging the receipt for the contact. What does the Q signal QRQ mean when operating CW? Well, QRQ means send faster. And if you remember that QRS means send slower, with the S is slow, you can think that QRQ with the Q means quicker. And unfortunately, I've never been good enough that I actually needed to use this one. However, I am sure there's some reason out there that this Q signal exists. So QRQ means send faster. What does the Q signal QRV mean when operating CW? Well, QRV means I am ready to receive messages. And you don't use this that often, but I've used it before during field days when I was copying messages to pass on. But once you have everything ready to receive the message, you send a QRV and they send it in. Or if you're passing information and then you're done passing information and you're ready to receive messages, you can send QRV as well. So QRV means I am ready to receive messages. Well, that's the end of the G2F review and part 1 for lesson 11. So for part 2, if you're having trouble finding it, you can go to hamwhisper.com. You can look under the ham courses page and you can find it there. Otherwise, take a break and I'll see you in part 2.